Hey there, welcome to another driver assistance program, DAP, for Extreme Motorsports 99. This also applies to anybody else who just wants to learn the Sonoma track. Alright, so now it's time for the track walk. So I'm going to cruise around and start at the beginning of the lap. After we just came out of our hairpin, and of course we just nailed it, we should be actually further left than this. You're probably going to be actually closer to out here. Going down the straightaway, I would practice actually taking this next turn up here. Let's see here. I would be practicing this guy here. He is going to be, you're probably going to have somebody coming up on your inside or on the outside here, and so you want to be able to practice going too wide here. If you're just doing your normal run, just maybe swing it out a little bit further out here. You don't need to go as far out as this line like they're showing with the how that's all rubbered up out here. This car doesn't really need to hook this, really hook in like that. It just you can run this one pretty tight to the edge. So anyway, you can just let it run out here just like this. Again, not a big deal. You're going to aim for that wall. I'm actually a little bit further right than I want to be, but you want to make sure you're hitting this apex really well. And the next thing is your exit point. There's this little spot here with the paint. There's like a little, when we get closer you'll see it, but it's right in there. My pen's probably a little too thick for what we're doing here. Anyway, let's see here. Yeah, so it's I think it's right about here. You'll see it when you're driving it. I think it's a little more obvious, but I think it's that guy right there. So what we'll do is we'll shoot out there, and then that's the point you can. It's kind of like another turn in. It's like kind of your exit, turn out, and then also your turn in. So you kind of want to loop that guy out. So you can see here, it's actually like a little bit of curb. I've never noticed that before. So it's a little bit of curb. That's kind of your aiming point there. And then what you're going to do is, as you're hooking through here, you're going to want to follow this line, and you're going to want to get kind of close to that cone. Now, you can either let off. You can either start letting off right here, and then start playing with the brakes up in here, or you can stay on the gas hard and then kind of let off maybe in this area. So I'll experiment with those two things, what's easier for you. If your car's a little bouncy, then I'd actually suggest letting off and letting the car take the set through this area, and then braking up in here more. And you're not going to be braking really hard. You're going to be braking pretty soft up here. It's just kind of dragging the brakes on this one. But if you're not bouncing, so if you're running maybe some softer springs, then maybe you can stay on the throttle all the way through here and then start braking up in here. So here, oh, sorry, the cone isn't a point that you want to actually try to clip. You actually want to stay wide there, but it's a mark for you to when to start braking. You still want to be like out here, because what you really want to do is you want to be setting this turn up. You want to be coming in, this is exaggerated, but you really want to be straight up in here. You want your lefts right there on that edge there. So really hook that in and really try to straighten it out and hit this curb on the left. So you're going to be in here, you're going to be, again, feathering the brakes. And this is one of the turns where I can make some mistakes, because you're going to be in fourth through here, or you should be in fourth. You're going to be tempted to go into third. You don't need to. I mean, you can try it out, but I typically just leave it in fourth gear. And you're going to really want to, so because you're way out here on this curb, you're going to want to really, again, light apex this guy. This one, if you don't, what will happen is you're going to shoot off. You're just going to keep going straight. This is like, I'm not sure if it's actually off camber, but because of this transition here with this hill, it feels like it's off camber. I mean, you can see here you're on the left here, but I'm not sure what it does on the other side, but it feels kind of odd, and you're going to feel like you're going super, super, super slow. So you're going to be tempted to be going pretty quick through here. You just kind of want to let it roll through here. So you're going to be up in this area. You're going to be on the brakes. And that was, the differential wasn't letting me turn, but you would turn a little bit more. And you don't want to quite want to hit the curb. You just want to be more on the inside of it and straighten it out. Because if you don't, this car wants to really push out this direction really bad. It's going to want to float. If it does, just make sure when the left side hits the dirt out here that you stay on the throttle, kick that thing to the right, and let it come back. Maybe 3/4 throttle, I think, is about what I usually do on the dirt. It's going to float out here. The next thing you're looking for is there's this hump coming up, not the one we're on. So this little crest right here, it's kind of hard to see the way we're positioned right here, but there's this crest. This is where I just let off, right about in this area. Maybe a little bit before, maybe right about in here, but I let off and let that suspension really load up for this turn coming through here. And we want to light apex this one as much as possible. So I don't think we want to hit it right in here. We want to hit it right about in here. So we're going to be coming over this hill. We would let off. I'm going to be wider than the tire marks and let it kind of hook. And I'd be off the gas, and I'm going to come up in here. Now I might feather the throttle a little bit. You can kind of play with it. But this is another turn. Again, there's lots of blind turns here. You want to lay apex this. You can touch this a little bit, but you don't want to hit too much. That's another thing. That last curb you don't want to touch at all. Kind of upsets the car going through here. This one you can hit a little bit. If you run too much over it, you'll get an off track, but you want to lay apex this guy right here. Now the biggest problem about this turn is as you're coming up and over this guy, where is your turn out? So what I usually do is I'm looking, actually I'm going to pull it a little bit more. It kind of lines up with this guy right here. See this little trail on the hill? That's what I'm usually looking at as I'm coming over here. And this part right here, this little, where it juts to the right, will kind of be in parallel with the left side of the track. So as I'm coming over this, get the pen out of the way. I'm coming over this, you're kind of out here, and it's better to actually be too far to the right like this than be too far out here, because when you're out here, watch what happens. You're not going to notice that you're too far until your nose comes over like that. Now, if you're at full speed and you're still got that wheel, whoops, I don't have my steering wheel turned on. You can see down here in the my lower left again. So watch that for my wheel. If you're already like this, and this car is still going that direction, your only option is to let off the gas and let that thing come back. And if you do that, it's a big passing place right here, potentially, if you are going to lose half a second. If you got somebody on your rear end and you're coming out here and they can see that you're about to make a mistake, they're going to just cut up the inside here. There's not a lot of time for this, but if they can get a nose up to your door, they're going to take it. So if it's someone that's super aggressive and they just have a nose on the inside of your bumper and they're treating it like a NASCAR pass, they're going to be expecting you to stop, which technically, from, I don't know, gentlemanly rules, just because you have a nose with their bumper doesn't really mean you have the turn. But some people pretend they're like, hey, I was inside of you. But anyway, but if you look here at this sight line, I can now see, let's see if I can get a straight line. From here, nope. That is not a straight line. Oh. In any case, let's see here. Yeah. If you line this up, it's hard for me to draw a straight line, but it would be like this. So that's why I use this guy as my indicator for when I'm coming over the hill. This is what I'm looking for. You could also use this little tower if you see that early enough, but I generally just go for this guy. The next thing is for this turn right here, setting up. This track has doesn't have the turn markers like other tracks do. Like, you know, they don't count you down at 3, 2, 1, etc. They don't have a lot of billboards. There's not a lot of, like, if you look at this spot right here, there's no transition in the walls. They don't have a bunch of poles, you know, either telephone poles or speakers or anything out in like this area to kind of gauge where you should be braking. So the only thing I can use personally is I use this curb. I do not brake at the end of the curb. Some tracks are really, really nice where it's like perfect. That is your brake point. For me, it's a little bit further up. So you can kind of see how it kind of, I'm going to exaggerate, it kind of bows right here a little bit. That's the point that I brake, right in here. So I guess you can kind of see that it starts to rubber up right in this area. Maybe this white spot is a good thing. But if you're waiting till about right here, unless your setup is, if you can brake that late, awesome. I can't. I usually have to end up braking right about in this area. So this is my brake point right here. And then you want to stay way out here, just like the rubber is here, and stay, and because you want to, again, light apex with this car. Some tracks aren't. It isn't quite as necessary to light apex, but this track, I think it's almost every turn you're light apexing, except for a few. So, and then the other thing is you do not want to hit this curb. You can hit it, but this one, it will upset the car, and you will end up getting out into this area, out in this grassy stuff. The other thing is, if you do brake this late and you start cooking the tires, it's almost impossible to turn. You can tell it won't want to turn. It's like the tires are like all gummed up and slippery, and then you try to get back to the gas, and they're just overheated. So you can tell if you made some mistakes there. So I'm going to roll it down here. I would be on the brakes, coming way, way out here, and cutting that corner like that. And you probably hear me say it every video, but like if you're not running triples or VR or something like that, this track is actually really bad for that, the way these turns are set up. Boy, I can't even see here. But you can see that curb, how tall this guy is, and you want to be on the back side going this direction. But you're probably going to hear me, you're probably going to get sick of hearing me say it if you're not running triples. This track is be very difficult for me to get around running triples, or sorry, running a single monitor setup. So I'm going to want to come back in here. It's going to probably kick you out a little bit to the left. Now for this turn, these next two turns are really, there's actually a lot of turns in this track that are like this. They're kind of like long sweeping turns. But you'll notice when you watch my my fast laps, I will try to keep my steering wheel set at a certain angle. I don't know, it's maybe something like this. Probably not maybe a little bit more like that, but not too much. But I'm going to use the throttle, so I'm going to get it. First thing I want to do is get set up for the turn out in here. I'm going to hit the apex. You can see when you get up here, you'll see there's like a little kink in the paint. That's the point I'm shooting for. And once I know I'm about on track with that, I will use my throttle and my throttle only to adjust how I go around this turn. So sometimes I'll let it run all the way out to the outside the grass out here. Usually it doesn't. It's kind of made a mistake, but that's okay if you go out that far because you have plenty of room or plenty of time to get back to the right. But I like to run it probably about mid-track, so I'll show you what I'm talking about when I get there. Alright, so this is that point I was talking about. Maybe it just looks like a kink when you're driving, but it's this point right here is what I'm really shooting for. That's the apex of the turn that I shoot for. And like I said, as I'm coming through here, I will have my wheel angled, and I will just use my throttle. And I kind of want to be right about out here. I don't want to be too much further left than this, but it's okay. It's not dangerous. You should never be flying off the track here. But if you're running out, even out in this area right here, it's okay, because all you do is just make it cut back a little bit further. It's not distracting. Like if you're running out to the side, it's going to be actually a little bit further back than we are right now. But what will happen is when you do get out there, you can kind of come back and you can straighten it out, because you want to be straightened out up here. The big key is you want to be right here for this for the next turn. If you are in here for the next turn, it's going to slow you up quite a bit. braking point here is going to be just as it starts to crest. I don't like to, I like to brake a little bit earlier. It seems like if I'm braking later, the car almost wants to jump over the top here. The wheels are too light, so I like to hit the brakes a little earlier. If you can brake later than that, great. I cannot. So I'll be coming up here. I'll be pretty hard on the brakes, right about here. This is probably where I'd be really hard on the brakes. But you're going to see it's going to come floating over the top. And I want to run, I think this is another one where the rubber is a really good indication of where you want to be. Whoops, that was too far to the right. You kind of want to have your right sides kind of in here and get your lefts down into the paint here, right about here. Not back here, but right here. So you can kind of see that's actually kind of like where I'd want my lefts. You'll be tempted, put it this way, well, first off, you might be tempted to kind of run way, way, way out here and then kind of diamond in the corner a little bit and really then cut in hard like that. This is usually really slick out here. I don't know if it's like marbles, dust, whatever it is, but I usually can't get it to turn too much out here, and so I'll lose a lot of time if I'm up in there. If you do find yourself out here, just play with the throttle, like just ease off. Like I said, the last turn and this turn are for me throttle turns, not steering wheel turns. I turn it maybe about like this, maybe like this, somewhere in that range, but I don't use the steering wheel to adjust the line. I use the throttle to adjust the line here. So you're going to want to come down here. You're going to be tight, tight, tight on here, just like the rubbered up track is. You can actually see two lines for the tires. Stay here. You're on again, playing with the throttle. I usually try to stay off this curb out here and then kind of bring it in and run it right on there. So I won't run, through here, but I'll run more of this line. So this is where I start to go, okay, I'm going to attack this. If you cut it a little bit too much and you find yourself in the dirt right here, I wouldn't worry about it, because trying to adjust the line to come back this direction and then try to get back this direction, it's going to put you out in this dirt. And this is really tricky. It seems really simple, but I'll show you where you can lose a lot of time. So you're going to be coming down here. You still aren't full throttle. And I wouldn't be full throttle. Right here I'm going to be, I don't know the exact percentages. You have to watch I'll say my fast laps. I just got done doing them and they were not as fast as I would have normally been. But you're going to see that you're not going to be really full throttle until you hit this white line right here. Once you cross that line, or you're about to cross that line, that's generally where I'm full throttle. You can play with it, you can get a feel for it, but generally if you start hitting full throttle right here, the car is just going to want to go straight out there. You'll see in the fast laps that this is one point where I will be playing with the throttle. I might even go full throttle here, and if it kind of goes out a little bit further than I want, I'll just crack it. I mean, you're talking like 95, 90% just to get that thing to come back. When you are full throttle, that differential really like locks up and starts to push you out on the side. So you don't want to be full throttle until you're absolutely sure that you aren't going to be just cranking the wheel, sideways like this, where it's like 90 degrees to the left while you're full throttle, because that will kill your times. So it's going to shoot you kind of out there. Oh, the other thing is, you don't have to come all the way out here. If you hit that turn and you keep your wheel, actually it's probably, I would keep my steering wheel kind of the same all the way through that last turn, from the entry all the way to the exit, all the way till close to out here almost. I'll start straightening it out. If you were left of where I am now, that's fine. You don't need to run all the way out. If you need the room, take the room. If you don't need it, don't shoot out here. It's a waste. I've had some really good laps during some other practices where it felt like I should run more to the right, but I just kind of left it there, and the car just kind of hooked up and went. Probably gained about 1/10 by doing that. But you will lose more time by having the steering wheel sideways and on the throttle. Full throttle. Alright, this turn here. This turn I have basically 3 brake points, and I'm not saying 3 brake points per lap, but in the beginning of the race I'm going to use this billboard right here as my brake point. The tires, if I use my normal brake point, which is this little red one back here, if I use that as if I'm braking this late on the first lap, I'm probably going to end up going too far out in here. So on my first lap, I might brake here. Test it out on your own. Maybe you can start braking at this sign, but one thing I really like about this turn is it has billboards, and it has nice places to actually pick a point. So pick one of these billboards as your spot. I mean, if you could brake as late as the black, have at it. But for me, it's about the red, I'd say, for safe. Alright. This turn's kind of weird. I like to keep this one fairly tight. Again, the rubber that's on here, the track, the way it's nice and black here, follow that around. I think that's a really good line. Do not hit this curb. It will bounce you and stick you out to the left further than you want, so do not hit that curb. If you overshoot this and you end up, maybe you're not going to be out this far, but if you end up further than you want out here, don't worry about it. Just kind of let off the throttle a little bit more, let the car rotate, and then you can hammer it back on, and you'll get kind of a super late apex on this hairpin. It's not going to kill you too bad if you do go out there. The biggest problem is that if you go out there, someone's going to cut underneath you. So if you got somebody behind you, that's the biggest problem. So I would try to defend here. And this is also a spot, I should have mentioned this earlier, is this turn right here. This turn right here is a huge opportunity for passing. It's not if the person in front of you gets a good exit coming down that hill, but if they start shooting off to the right and they start flooring it with the wheel turned, or they have to let off and you're behind them, this is a perfect place where you can start to get that nose up to at least their door. I would also practice coming into this a little bit wide, because you're probably going to have GT4s. They're going to be passing you here. So I'm going to run it so you can see how it's rubbered up here. In fact, I might back up in a second. But you can see I'd be staying way out here. And again, I'm going to say it with triples, you guys can't see, but there is a big old curb right over there that I'm looking at. And how far is it off from this? It's about this far to the right. That's about that far off my screen. So if you were to take this and mirror it, it's that far off. So I'm going to back it up so you can actually see what I'm talking about here. That curb right there. So I'm going to back up even more so you can kind of get a view of what we're looking at. You can see how it's, yeah, it sticks my rear end in a hole so I can't actually see the track. But you can see there's what I'm talking about, how it's rubbered up. This is what you want to be doing. Maybe I can show you on a overview when we get there. But you're going to come around nice and wide. And I want to be just right here on this curb. You can hit this one. I still wouldn't. I mean, you really want to just kind of be shooting off into here. Where I really like to be is once I come off of here, I really like this sight picture. I really like to be coming in here. Some people might feel it's a little bit too far left, but I actually like kind of having, instead of kind of coming in this direction, I kind of like coming at it this way, because I can kind of run over the left a little bit, and then you're going to have two curbs here right in a row. I like to hit these with my right sides. If your suspension is really, really stiff, then maybe you enter more at this angle, the one in the middle here, and maybe stay a little bit further left. But you'll see these two curbs here that I actually like to hit. So you can see how flat this guy is. This is what I want to be doing right here. Basically, I want to run a straight line for the most part. It's a little bit hooked to the right, go back to the left, then hit those two on the right. But it feels straighter than it probably is. But this is what I like to do. I like to run over. I can, have that left side all the way in here, maybe even more. Basically, I want to kind of keep my rights over on this side. So I'll be coming in here. You got these doubles, you got that curb and that curb. Keep your lefts on the left side of this line. Shouldn't be an off track. You will hit both of these. As soon as it basically lands, you're not going to be like airborne, but you'll feel it's kind of upset. You're going to want to be very light on the brakes here. I think my point might be right about there. I'll have to look at that. It might be this brake point, but you're going to start hitting the brakes because you want to hit this a very late apex on this one here, turning in this turn here. Because you want to late apex this guy because you're going to have a right turn that's coming up, and you really need to set up for that right because it's a very high speed. So you hit those, boom, boom, and then, yep, right about here, your feather weight on your brakes. So hopefully you've got some good brakes. If you don't, and you're just running like a potentiometer and a spring, be very light on this. You don't want to be stabbing at the brakes here. It's just a brushing of the brakes. Dragging, make sure you can get in here. And I will still hit this. Maybe hit this a little bit, maybe not. But then you want to be set out here because you really want to shoot in late on, that's very messy, on this curb right in here. You want to get down on the right side of that guy. So you're going to be coming down here. Let it come around and hit that. This is another throttle turn, if you will. You're going to be turning whatever you're normally comfortable with. Don't crank that wheel like this. You're just going to burn the tires up. So put the wheel where you feel it's good. It might be something like this, and you're just going to play with the throttle. As soon as you're confident that you can make it, then go ahead and go full throttle. If you're not, half throttle, 3/4, whatever it is, because on the other side here, again, lots of blind apexes, blind turnouts, all kinds of stuff. But it's going to run up here. And your left should be right to the curb here. Or I should say, your left should be right on the curb here. And this is one place where I would not use the rubbered up track as a guide. It's really tempting to, once you're here, to try to get way out here and then kind of lay apex in there. I don't. I hug this. Every time I don't, and I feel like, oh, I'll let it drift way out here, it just takes me way too long to try to get it back to the left. So I typically am running it down in here and kind of staying tight like this. And it feels like I want to, it feels like I should be further right, but I find it much easier to stay here. Then this is another brush the brakes. I mean, you are just gentle here. This is the egg under the foot analogy type thing. But you're going to be just brushing the brakes right about in here. I don't have a really good spot here. It's probably one of my worst turns is this one, and then the other one is probably turn 2, that at the top of the hill, that right. Those two are the ones that kind of throw me off, and I feel like every time I'm coming in here, it's a little bit of an experiment. Even though I'm like, okay, I'm going to brake right here, you have to kind of, for me at least, how much, if I hit the brakes too much, then I can hit the gas earlier up in here. If I didn't hit them enough, I have to wait for the car to kind of come back and then get back on. But it's just brushing the brakes here. So you might even hit them twice. Like there's sometimes I'll brush them, let's say from here to here. The car isn't quite settled, and then I'll just tap it from here to here. Like, I mean, we're talking just barely dragging the brake. But don't be afraid to hit them twice if you have to. However, if you can, don't. Get that brushing done, and you might be even longer. So it might be brush the brakes from here, maybe even to here. But when I'm saying brush the brakes, like not even as much as, I mean, I've got like since I'm stopped, it's like auto. But you're just, yeah, it's not even as far as this is going. So like if I was going, maybe I'm just hitting about like that. I know I'm hitting the throttle too, but very light on the brakes, and it's just barely touching them. Not even like that. It's too much. All right. So here, depending on your suspension, sometimes what it'll do, I was noticing with this one, sometimes it'll hook and it'll grab, and sometimes it'll hook and then it'll hook like it's going like this, and then it feels like it slides out a little bit, and then it hooks again. So it gets kind of this weird pattern here. Just watch out for that. But you want to be coming at this angle here. If you're hitting the curb out here, it's death. I shouldn't say it's death. It'll kill your times. I mean, if you're going full speed at this, you're not going to make it and you're going to hit that wall. But you really should be further out here coming in at this direction. The other thing is, on the first lap, take it easier through here because the tires will not have grip and they will want to shoot you off to the left, and you're going to start seeing this big purple sign out here. Alright, so it kind of looks like it's like a little bit flat, like it doesn't keep turning, if you will. This is that point where you can start thinking about picking up the throttle. You might be picking it up maybe a little bit back here, but you might be like quarter throttle, things like that. You're going to be really trying to run through here with the least amount of brake and very light on the throttle until you're confident that you're going to make this turn. So it's just kind of feathering through here. So I would say watch my hot laps and you can kind of see how I run through here. It's probably going to be slightly different each time, so don't look at one lap and go, oh, that's exactly the way I should do it. You're going to see lap after lap it's a little bit too much brake, and then I'll hit the throttle a little bit earlier. I hit it perfect, and I can pick it up maybe almost full throttle back into here. So it'll be a little bit different each time for me. Just practice this turn. Be very conscious of when you're braking, how much you're braking, and when you're picking back up the throttle. I think typically you're going to be pretty safe getting back to full throttle. If basically at the end of this curb, you should probably be pretty close to it. But this is one of those turns where you have to really watch out for how your car reacts in the dirt. So you're going to see up here. This feels like you have a ton of room, but trust me, you can even see my tire lines sitting out here. I've run over this, and you'll notice I don't run too far out. It's not like I got tire tracks way out here, but there's a few times when you just get a little bit of tire on here, and it's really hard to get it back, especially because this curb, right as you're like getting it back on, you're like, oh good, I've got it. The curb ends, so you might have like half a tire on the curb, and then the curb ends. Now you got all tire on the dirt again. So anyway, you're going to be out in here. And you do want to hit the curb. This is about as far left as you want to be. And like I said, you can see how I ran over here. Looks like at least twice I was out here, and start pulling it back. You're not much danger here. It seems like with like when I was running the Mazdas here, it's real easy. You get hooked out here, and all of a sudden it just slides and you hit the wall. I don't think I've crashed on this course yet in this car through all the practices. This is a very forgiving track. So this last turn, also the importance of the last turn, that high-speed kink, huge passing opportunity, because if you have to let off, you hit the brakes too much in here, you get a bad exit. Again, someone is going to come right on the inside of your door here. They'll be right there. And also practice this next turn, taking this wide for the GT4s. They're going to be shooting up on the inside of you. Now, my brake point here, I am always tempted. This is another turn that I tend to overshoot. So I tended to overshoot that downhill. What is it? Turn one. Yeah, the one where I was pointing out that that path on the hill, that blind turn, and you have that hard right there before you kind of go through, like, it's almost like the boot of this turn, or this track. I overshoot there. I was talking about the wheels getting hot. Same kind of thing here. I always want to try to brake on this cone, and it's very deceptive, because if I brake at the cone, I go too far. I don't hit the tires or anything like that. It's just I'm going to end up way further than I want. So I always have to back this one up a little bit. It's probably there's like this little white spot right here. That's probably where I'd be braking, right in that little area right there. So right about here and not here. It doesn't seem like much, but I want to make sure that I'm getting down into fourth by about the end of this wall, and third. I want to be in third about the time I hit the cone here. When I hit that cone, I should be in third. And this turn, you can run it wide. I sometimes run it a little bit narrower. It doesn't seem to kill me too much, but oh boy, you guys are going to hate me. Alright, you can run on the inside of this curb. The danger with that, if you don't have triples, you're going to hit these tires. So you're going to have to figure out, maybe watching replays or whatever, what that sight picture looks like to you, or watch my replays if you're on, because I'm only recording the single, the middle screen. Watch what this looks like, because I really hug these tires. Not this first one here, but these last two are the ones you can't see. Well, the one that's on the other side of there, and this guy, these guys I really like to really get really close to those. Oops. We go forward. And I'm in third gear all the way through here, like this. And I am super, super, super light on the throttle. I'm only giving it enough throttle to kind of pull it through the turn, but I am not trying to accelerate here. If you're off the gas, the differential sometimes will kind of lock up and kind of make the turn a little weird. All I'm doing is I'm just releasing that, or putting a little bit of pressure on that differential, just slightly, going through here. It's like very, very gentle, coming through here, and then once I've rotated enough, and I'm gonna make it poke so you can see here, these tires right here. Again, watch some replays if you have a single screen, figure out where it is, but somewhere right before that, I kind of get the car to diamond a little bit. So I'll kind of be tight, but then I want to, as soon as I can, get that thing just straight. And once I get the wheel unwound, so like if you look at the steering wheel again down here, I'm coming to this turn, and I'm actually, this is one of the few places, if you've watched my other videos, I talk about how I almost never go past this point here. This turn I will. This turn I might even be about like this. It's a super tight turn, but I'm very, very, very light on the gas. I mean, we're talking like that. It's really, really, really light. But then as it unwinds, I might be about 3/4 throttle here, or actually probably about 3/4 throttle when I'm turned like that, and I'm not full throttle till I get about here. And you'll have to feel how that feels, but you're going to be shooting out about here. This concludes our track walk, but this is where I would end up, and then you get to do it all over again. The other thing I want to show you is pit entrance. So pit entrance, full throttle. I use the cone as my first, so I'm slamming on the brakes here, and I will get down into fourth as soon as I can. And I think right about here I'm getting into third. And you're coming around this corner. I don't hit my pit limiter until the very end. So this is kind of a tricky one for me because I have a button on my wheel, but since my wheel is turned about where it is right now, I'm running this as fast as I can. What's interesting is by the end of this, I should only be doing about 50 miles an hour, about 5 miles an hour over the pit lane speed. So right about here I'll start hitting the limiter, and it might start slowing me down. If it doesn't, then I'll just tap the brakes enough to get under the speed for the cones, and then I'm here. Alright, that concludes the track walk. Like I said, watch the replay. I will put out some I don't talk during the replays, but I might put some text up as we go. But if this was enough for you, awesome. Go run some practices. My fast lap, let's see here. If you just want to jump to it. lap 6. Oh, in fact, you know what? We'll go ahead and watch lap 6 right now with the driving line on, so I can talk about the driving line. Alright, you can actually see on this turn setting up, look how far I'm cranked. This is highly unusual for me. I do not run my wheel that much at almost any other track. So I'm going to see how my throttle is. I'm actually half throttle, 3/4. It's actually got back probably earlier than I said I did. But you can see here the track. If you're following, this is one of the ones where the driving line is, to me, it's spot on in some places, but it is really wonky at other places. And this is one of those. For the TCR, you don't need to be way out here. You can be way to the left here. They also show letting off right here. You see how it's like kind of, oops. You can see how it's kind of, it's white right there. Do not let off there. It's full throttle all the way through here. Again, there's our little curb. I think I like everything like this. Maybe, like I said, maybe let off here, or maybe let off. You can see right there, that's the cone. They use the, when I said use the cone, again, this is where you should be out here, but you can let off the gas here. They don't brake at all. I tend to brake a little bit more, I think, earlier than they do. But again, it's really light, because I don't want to upset the car. Yeah, so you can see me, I'm just touching the brakes here a little bit. Remember, feather on the brakes here. You can see again, not full throttle going through here, and it's going to feel really slow. Now, they're still full throttle here, then they let off and they brake here. I don't do that at all. I am going to go full throttle, let off here, let it roll. If you notice there, I played with the throttle a little bit. Breakpoint should be coming up right now. Why would they let off there? I have no idea. For this car, you don't. You're going to go full throttle. Again, watching my steering wheel, it should stay about the same all the way through this entire turn. And again, play with the throttle. It's not necessarily what they're doing. It's whatever your car is doing. And then watch my steering wheel again. It should stay about like this all the way through the turn. Alright, so on this one I was able to get back to the throttle a little earlier than that line, but most of the time I'm struggling to be able to get the power down before this line. So this one I was actually able to get through it. But again, notice the steering wheel doesn't change a whole lot through this whole. I'm not using it a whole. Oops, I'm not using it a whole lot to steer. I'm using the throttle. Watch the throttle. So I liked everything that they just had to that sequence there. You know, they were, you know, full throttle all the way through here. Just brush the brakes through here. Playing with the throttle in here. What I don't like is they're way out here. I wouldn't do this. Again, stay tight. because it just makes if you're coming from way out here and then trying to cut in, it's too much of the angle's off. I like what they do here. Brush the brakes. And you can see again how late I was getting back to full throttle. So I'm playing with it here, and then watch when I'm full throttle again. Here. I'm not full throttle till here. Alright. Well, enjoy the 15 minutes if you're going to watch it. 15-minute hot laps. Other than that, this will conclude it for the track walk and the driving line in the TCR. And first I'll go over the weather settings that we're using. 7 degrees Fahrenheit, 40% humidity, winds are at 11, partly cloudy, dynamic sky, and we make sure that our track state is at 40. For those of you, I guess I'll have to look at what this is in Celsius. I'm sorry I don't have the conversion here. I thought I could switch it back and forth here. Apparently not. So we're going to go ahead and test this out. Alright, right now, you can see that our temperatures are at 104, even though we set it at 70. Our track temps are 104. If I put that over to metric, then it's 21 for the weather and 40 degrees C for our track. Now I am going to go over to our baseline 12 gallons. This is the one we've been using for all the DAP sessions. So let me show you what that looks like in the standard units, or US, whatever they're called. So we keep our air pressures all the way down. That's 165 kPa. Then this is what it looks like here. This is basically our one of the baselines. I forget which one it is. I think it is literally baseline, and then all I do is put 12 gallons in there because that's what we're restricted to in our league, and then adjust the ride height back to where they were. So take a look at this, pause it if you need to, and here we are at 12 gallons. I will do the same thing for a metric. And that's our setup. The only thing I might say about the setup is the thing I'm experimenting right now is I might be running some stiffer springs here, but this track, even though it has a lot of undulations, it's really a pretty flat track for the most part. So might want to bump the springs up, but that might introduce some bounciness. But if you're just if you're watching this video and you're trying to just get around here safely, because that's again the intent of these videos is not to make you the fastest driver out there, but if you're struggling to get around, this should help you at least put down some solid laps times and have at least an enjoyable race and not be driving off in the dirt and hitting walls or hitting other people. So we'll go ahead and run our test session here. 15 laps. Bias down. Good run through there. A little late on the brakes. Bias down again. Touch of the brakes there. Bias down again. Overshot turn 2. Braking on the red now. bias down again. Playing with the throttle. Down with the bias again. Notice the steering wheel didn't really change through there, I just used the throttle. Same with this turn. Using the throttle to control that turn. Front floated there. Just let it come back around. Make sure you downshift. Alright, those weren't exactly the cleanest laps that I want to throw in there. My average middle laps, the average for my 5 middle laps were 141, 197. Not the greatest. My fast time there was a 147.36. You can get that, probably chop off about half second if you run better than I did, and also the weather. The track temps are really high. During the race, it's going to get down into the 90s, and that will chop off a lot of time. So if you're doing a practice session and you start getting into the 90s, your lap times should fall off quite a bit actually. But if you're running, if you can run right around 141 or sub 141s in that kind of weather and the heat, then you're probably doing all right, especially if you can put together some cleaner laps than I did. But we're going to check our tires here. After 15 minutes, there's a little bit more wear on the inside than there is. So I'm looking at the worst tire. That's what I always look at. You can see here at Sonoma that the tires wear pretty evenly between the left and the right. You can see the pressures. I mean, they're only off by 0.3 in the front after 15 minutes. So definitely wouldn't be changing around the pressures, even if you're someone like me who usually likes to even them out. I wouldn't touch these at all. What I might do is drop the camber down a little bit because it's a 60-minute race. Probably going to be pitting. This place is chewing up tires pretty good. But anyway, I like to keep these guys fairly even, so I want to make this middle wear a little bit more and get that outside wear a little bit more. Generally, I don't, if you watch my other videos, I don't care too much about the outside, but if it's drastically off, then I might be looking at it. And it's not drastically off. This isn't big. If this was like a 94, then I'd be wondering why the inside were doing what they're doing. But the camber here is only 3 degrees, so actually it's not bad. So I'm not sure if I'd be taking it down much further than 3 degrees. So maybe I'll just leave that alone and see how this does on a 30-minute run, because that's if you're splitting the race up on tires, 30 minutes there. So that's about it for the for this part of the video.